So basically, we are completely into a product designing and development of electronics product, and we have delivered a solution in the market which are very innovative. We have delivered solution in the healthcare and different hospitals, and we have design solutions which are very unique in terms of like patented technology. So all that expertise we have right now, and based on that we are also delivering such kind of expert sessions where we can transfer more and more technical knowledge to the faculty and students. Based on that, what they can deliver to so knowledge sharing can happen. So let's start with the our main agenda. So here we have expert talk on the technology, which is like role of sensors in AI. So everybody is more or less aware about the artificial intelligence. It means it is a similar to like human being or like competing with the human being. So what can be the role of sensors in human being, means or in artificial intelligence? So if we consider ourselves as a one artificial intelligence example, so we have our inbuilt sensors in our body. We have eye, nose, ear, and other sensors in our body. So our body is continuously taking those data, and our body is taking those data from various sensors, and it is itself making decision internally whether to react to those sensors or not. So similar way, people are building more intelligent system with those sensors which are not human related sensors, but those are related to the process sensors or industry related sensors. So let's start with various AI applications. So what are the various AI applications? So in healthcare, there are many applications which are assisting the doctor. Let's say example, wireless ECG system, so which is continuously transmitting data from your body on the cloud, and doctor can monitor your all the health parameter. And if we are just processing those data in a longer run, or we are just making some models using those data, then AI will be able to help the doctor for taking the decision. As of now, there is a very poor doctor to patient ratio in India. So in such cases where AI can help the doctors, AI system will have primary data for the patient, and it will be giving you some suggestions or some advice to the doctor based on the data available to the AI system. So that way it can solve the bigger problem in India where doctor to patient ratio is very low. So that is one solution. Another solution is business for smoothing the overall process. As of now, you can see on every website there is a one chat box. So what is that? That is a simple AI solution which is built around few question and answer kind of terminology, where you ask few questions. So there are predefined answers available for that questions, and you will be routed to the next questions or answers. So that are automated chatbots available on the website for like various Amazon. If you go to the Amazon website, if you go to the any other website, Flipkart or anywhere, you have some chatbots which are already been trained with certain data, and they will solve the query. So this is solving a big problem for the business activity, where you don't have to involve someone to do the live chatting. Based on the question and answer, you will be diverted to the particular department for your query. So this is solving a bigger problem for manpower requirement in the businesses. The same way in education system, it can solve the grading system based on particular defined parameters. It can also like MCQ system, where you can have multiple question answers, and based on that, if you train the AI system for MCQ system, so it will give you the grading system based on the answer of the MCQ. So that can be another solution in education system. In autonomous vehicle, everybody knows a little bit about the autonomous vehicle, where driverless cars are rolling into the market in various countries. Still, India is not a country where autonomous vehicles are allowed, but in foreign or in USA or in other country, UK, you might find some autonomous vehicle which are automatically driving the cars. The same way, social media for serving the personalized experience. You might have noticed when you are searching something on Google, on a next day you will get some kind of news or some kind of insights regarding the past data that you have searched. So Google or any other social media platform are using similar kind of AI based on your past data or search results. The same way, travel industry is also predicting the pricing pattern using the AI system. So all this, these are various examples where AI is already running into the market. Now, how AI is built. So this is a basic system overview where AI has a dependency on ML and IoT. So basically, AI is completely dependent on the data. So if data is not available, then we cannot deploy any AI system. So first requirement is to generate the data. So how we can generate those data for AI system? So in that case, IoT comes into the picture. So IoT is basically Internet of Things, where you can connect more number of devices on the cloud using any kind of wireless connectivity. Once the data is available on the cloud, so then there is a machine learning approach which will train the machines using those data. Once the model is built using those data, then AI system will come into the existence. So there is a clear dependency of AI on IoT and ML. So we will go into the depth of IoT and ML, then we will be covering more on the AI. So let's start with the ML part. So what is ML? ML is the machine learning. So here we can see clear difference. Artificial intelligence is like autonomous robot or any automatic system which is trained with particular data to perform particular task. So how we can train this mind? So basically it's a machine learning. So machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. So in a machine learning, you have to train your machine using particular data, and it will be performing particular tasks. Let's consider example, like I want to make a robot which will play the chess or any game. So I will train those robots using particular data of the chess game or any other game, but I won't be able to utilize those robots for doing like cooking or anything. So artificial intelligence is something like building a specific intelligence for specific tasks, not for all the tasks. Yeah, and in compared to the artificial intelligence, we human can perform multiple tasks. We human are trained enough to do multiple tasks, but artificial intelligence is specifically designed to reduce the labor intensive work, where there is only specific requirement is there to perform specific tasks. So why artificial intelligence can be used in sports? Like in a sports, we need a training. Like if someone want to play chess and there are no specific players are available for training, so artificial intelligent robot can be designed for more and more complex steps. So the person playing against the artificial intelligence robot will be using more mind to get more complex solutions during that game activity. So that way artificial intelligence is also helping us to improve our own performance, and it is also solving a problem of labor intensive industry. So how we can proceed with the machine learning? So machine learning is something like collecting number of data and doing the particular like training for that data using those data. So here we have like a chipset which is trained with billions of data, and for using particular task. Means if I want to train particular robot for any kind of solution, so I have to collect those data from the industry or use cases, real world use cases, and then I would be able to train my system. So basically the first need is data. Once you have a data, so machine learning is something, a process which will train your mind or which will train your chipset to perform that particular task. So what are the building blocks for ML system? Means machine, if you want to build a machine learning, so various steps are there. First, we need to capture the data. So capturing data can happen using various sensors, accelerometer, gyro, or any external sensors, or any, depending on the application, we need to capture the data. We need to label the data. Labeling means we have to provide a clear data to the system. Let's consider example. I want to make a machine where my machine will identify whether eye is open or not. So we have image captured through camera. So camera is working as a sensor. After that, I have to label those data. Means I have to filter out that is open eye or closed eye. So that is called labeling of data. If my eye is open, then machine should stop. Sorry, if my eye is closed, then my machine should stop. If it is a machine for surgery of the eye, then what we can train the data. If my eye is closed, then machine would stop. If my eye is open, then and then it should perform the surgery. So initially I have to label the data. Whatever images I have, whether it is open eye or closed eye, based on my decision, I will label the data, and then I will make a build a decision tree. So decision tree is something like, if eye is open, then continue the process. If eye is closed, then stop the surgery. So this way my robot can at least take the decision whether I should continue surgery or not. So this is the decision building block. Once the decision building block is available, we have to insert the decision building block into the small chipset, and based on the data trained to the chipset, it will start the processing new data, and it will start performing the actual artificial intelligence task. So these are various blocks which are integrated into the machine learning part. So in a machine learning part, if we consider, so there are two kind of machine learning. One is deep learning and one is ML directly, we can say. So here input is available, but there is a feature extraction layer where manual activity is happening to decide the feature of the product, and then it is fed to the classification block, and then output will be there. But in a deep learning, my system will automatically take the decision and feature extraction, and it will directly go to the final result. So here in a machine learning, still there is a human involvement or any other kind of involvement which require feature extraction. So you have sensor data, but you have to define features of that data, and then you can send it to the classification block, and then your result will be available. But in a deep learning, your system is enough capable to take the feature extraction and classification decision automatically, and then it will go to the output. So initially we discussed about the IoT and ML. Now let's start with the IoT, means how we can use the IoT for collecting the data. So Internet of Things is like collecting more and more number of devices on the cloud, and then processing those data. So according to few reports, there will be more number of devices than human on the earth. More number of connected devices will be there by 2020 than the humans on the earth. So by means of that, initially IoT was introduced to just control or monitor systems from the remotely. But now IoT is used to collect the data for future model building and AI system building. So AI is completely dependent on the data. So initially, as I told you, initially it was just IoT was introduced just to control like home automation or anything, machines controlling or monitoring the real-time data. But now there is one more field which is like artificial intelligence, which is using the past data of the particular sensors or any other technology, and then it is taking the decision. So IoT is playing a bigger role into the AI. So here is a complex structure where IoT, ML, and AI can be introduced. So here we have various things which can be wearable sensors, any kind of meters, robots, or any kind of buildings where we want to place the sensors. After that, we have the sensors which is collecting data from all these objects. We are data aggregation and gateway. Gateway are system which is transmitting data on the cloud or any other system. And then we have edge computing where my data will be processed and it is stored on the cloud. So initially I have to collect the data, I have to transmit data on the cloud, And then once the data is available on the cloud, then I will be able to use those data for my artificial intelligence system. Here is a one practical example where Industry 4.0, it is built on a like sensors and machine learning. So here we have sensors, temperature sensors, pressure sensors, vibration sensors, and all other sensors. So sensors are process real-time data. So real-time data are fed into a mobile dashboard, and on the other side, it has some cloud connectivity. So on a real-time data, the shop floor workers can take some kind of manual decision, or if they want to stop anything manually based on the live data. But in a parallel, we can see the data is stored on the cloud, and then it is going into the machine learning. Then there is a model building, and there is a potential failure decision. So if I have deployed this system into my factory, so I would be able to understand the failure points automatically without any dependency on the human. So this is a very complex, or we can say a completely AI based solution, where I have sensors connected with my real-time system as well as in a AI-based system. So my all the sensors data are processed real time and stored into the cloud, and machine learning algorithm is used for particular sensors data, and my model is trained for using those real time data. And based on that, my model will decide whether there will be a potential failure in a week time, or whether there is a requirement for maintenance or not. So here it is solving a bigger problem in the industry for maintenance activity. Similar way, in a healthcare, we can have connected sensors which are sending data continuously on the cloud, and doctor can take the decision. Let's consider a COVID situation where it's a very dangerous to have a contact with the patient. So in that case, my IoT and AI system can help me to monitor the patient, and it is also if I integrate the AI system into the same technology, then it will be able to help me with the possibility of the COVID symptoms or not. Means if I have a wearable sensor which is continuously monitoring SpO2 and temperature, then I would be able to send data to the cloud platform. From the cloud platform, doctor can monitor real time data, as well as if I store those data and if I have a bunch of data, then I would be able to train my system to take the decision for particular patient. So based on the data availability, I would be able to train my model whether there is a chances of COVID symptoms or not. So this is one more example in a medical industry where AI and IoT is working very closely. Here is a different industry where there is an automotive industry. In automotive industry, we can deploy multiple sensors, whether it's asset tracking, cargo environment, fuel level efficiency, geolocations, vehicle speed and drive ideal time, engine diagnostics. So based on all these sensors deployed into the particular vehicle, I would be able to continuously collect the data, and based on that, I would be able to take more decision. Let's consider I have a fuel level sensor, and if I have continuously fuel level monitoring in my system, and if I train my system using the fuel sensor, so in a later cases, it would be able to suggest me more solution for the optimum path routing and all. Suppose consider an example where we have a government agency who is collecting some morning some kind of trash from our home to home activity. So in that case, if they have continuous data, so in later cases they will identify which is the best optimum route to save the fuel. So based on that, in that case, we will have two sensor: asset tracking means GPS and fuel sensor. So based on the location and fuel sensors, my system can be identified which is the best optimum route which will save my fuel. Okay, so now we are clear about how AI is dependent on the IoT. But IoT is something like a number of hardwares and cloud connectivity. So on the IoT side, we have a specific section where sensing and processing is required. So what is meant by sensing and processing? So there are a lot more sensors available depending on the whatever parameter we want to monitor. So we have position sensors, presence sensors, proximity sensors, which will be able to give you the data regarding presence or any other kind of activity. We have motion velocity displacement sensors. So this can be deployed in any field where I have to monitor the velocity and displacement. So let me just give you one example of the sensors we have just deployed into the field. We have designed a wearable product where we are giving this product to the field players who are playing the football. So based on the sensors data, we are able to identify their activity when they are playing. So based on this, we will be able to judge what is the minimum speed required and what was the maximum speed they obtained during their sports activity. So this kind of sensors can be used in the sport or any other industry. We have temperature sensors, humidity sensors, sound sensors, gas sensors, flow sensors, and force, and many more sensors depending on the application. Let's consider flow sensors example. We consider we have like a energy meter, similar kind of, if we have water flow meter. So water flow meter will be able to send those data on the cloud, and based on that my system will be automatically able to understand how much water consumption is happening during the morning hours and evening hours. So based on that, there will be a decision tree which will be able to control the water supply or any other activities. So based on all the sensors data, there is a huge dependency on the AI. This is something like which is used to process the sensor data. Definitely, as we spoke, AI is nothing without the data, but we have sensors, but we have to process those data. So to process those data, we need some kind of hardware which will connect the sensors with and process the data. So these are various, if you are from background from the electronics, then definitely must be aware about all these hardware platform. Now we have sensors, we have processors which can process data, but how we can throw those data on the cloud? So let's have wireless connectivity options. Here, depending on my applications, I will be able to figure out the architecture. If it is a wearable sensor, like I have a something like SpO2 or temperature sensor for patient monitoring, so which is a like short range communication. In short range communication, we have NFC or BLE technology, which can throw data onto the cloud using mobile application. If it is automation, where I have to monitor energy consumption, and if I want to control my lighting system, so in that case, Zigbee and Wi-Fi can be a better option, where I can send the data onto the cloud. If I have a factory automation, so in factory automation, I need everything automatically. So a cellular or Wi-Fi technology is most suitable sending data on the cloud. If it is a smart city, in a smart city where we need a range of kilometer or more than kilometer, where 10 kilometer or 5 kilometer range is required, then I can have LoRa or NB-IoT technology for longer distance communication. So depending on my final solution, we have to finalize which wireless technology we have to use for processing and sending the sensor data onto the cloud. Let's go just into the detail of this architecture. Here we have an asset which is a fixed asset, and we have like moving or portable asset. So in a fixed asset, we can have a small BLE, small communication or Wi-Fi based communication system, which can collect the data from the sensors and send it on the cloud, and then after to the processing system. If it is a moving object, or if it is a moving system, in that case I have to go with the cellular technology, because I cannot keep my Wi-Fi gateway into the field. So in that case, we will be using the cellular technology to transmit sensor data onto the cloud. Once the data is available, then we can machine and AI technology. Similar way, this is NB-IoT architecture. NB-IoT is similar to the cellular network, but it is using a different band compared to the cellular network. So LB IoT is already deployed in various regions for field trial, but it is completely a new concept into the market where you don't require actually designed for low power and very small data bandwidth requirement. Because our sensor data is very low in terms of like data size, where we don't require video or any other kind of bandwidth requirement on the network. So in that case, NB-IoT can be useful. So these are various architecture which can be useful for delivering the data onto the cloud. Similar way, we have a LoRa architecture which can be used for transmitting the data on the cloud. Now we have a few questions. Now all technical solutions we have available, but which suits where means which technology I can use a particular application. Like if I have industrial IoT, if I have smart meter, smart city, smart building, wearables, connected car. So how I can differentiate this very technical architecture. So depending on various requirement, we can decide. Like there are 4 factors: how far I want to send those data, how fast I want to send those data, how often I want to send those data, and how dense is my data. So all this will matter when you are transmitting data onto the cloud for storage purpose. So depending on the requirement of your architecture, you have to follow all this complexity. Means how far I want to transmit data, how fast I want to transmit data, how often I want to transmit data. If I want to transmit data at every 1 minute, then I have to deploy a different architecture. If I want to transmit data at 1 hour or 1 day frequency, then there will be a different architecture. And how dense my data is. If it is a medical data, so medical data is very dense data. In that case, I need a bandwidth in the network, so that bandwidth will be high. So that can be a cellular network or anything. So depending on your use cases, you have to select which architecture you have to follow. There are also other parameters which will be able to design, which will be able to like a decision maker. If it is a wearable product or if it is a moving or stationary object. If it is a wearable product, then you need a constant connectivity. If it is a moving or stationary object, then you have to deploy a solution which is always available for connectivity. If it is a battery operated or mains operated, means your sensors are battery operated or mains operated. Means if you have battery operated sensors, then must be a low power sensing requirement. If it is a mains operated sensor, then you don't have to worry about your sensors power consumption. Similar way, if it is a B2B or B2C kind of solution, if it is a subscription or one time cost, means if you have a like IoT architecture, there might be a subscription for your IoT solution. If it is a NB-IoT, then it is a subscription based solution where you have to pay monthly charges for your solution. If it is a like one time cost, where in LoRa you have one time cost for transmitting sensors data onto the cloud. So all this will be a deciding factor for your sensor solution. So we are clear about the sensing part, processing part, sending data on the cloud. Now, who is catching all this data? So these are various enterprise public cloud players who are sending all this data onto the cloud. So AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, all these platforms are available for storing the data and building the AI model. So basically, definitely we discussed like in a last slide, we need to store data and then process the data. So how we can store those data onto the cloud for building the AI solution? So these are various vendors available into the market who are able to store your data onto the cloud. As of now, AWS has a 68% of the whole market. Means maximum people are using AWS for storing the sensors data onto the cloud. Then after Azure, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, VMware, Oracle, Alibaba, these are various vendors who are providing you cloud platform for building and storing your data. Okay, so here we have sensors connected via Internet of Things. Then after, there is a cloud platform which is storing data and processing data. There is a one more technical field, which is the edge computing. So as of now, in last slides we discussed we have to throw data onto the cloud for processing data and building the AI solution. But there is a requirement of edge computing. Edge computing is in the middle of IoT and cloud, where your data will be processed in a local system and decision will be taken by this system. So basically, instead of using cloud platform, the edge computing will be able to solve my problem during the internet failure or anything. So if I have a sensor and there is a continuous data requirement on the cloud, then I will use a internet to cloud platform. But if there is a requirement on the hardware is required, then I have to go with the edge computing. So edge computing is something like building a decision tree into the hardware itself, not onto the cloud. If you build a solution onto the cloud, so every decision will be taken onto the cloud and you will get the result onto the hardware very late, or any latency will be there. But if decision is already available into the edge computing field, then you will be able to take decision very instantly. So edge computing is introducing new into the market right now, just because of the challenge for the cloud data processing. So here is the vertical diagram where we have the end devices with the sensors and everything connected onto the edge computing platform, and from edge computing platform we have data onto the cloud and data centers. So here you can see these are edge computing devices. It can be a microcontroller, microprocessor, it can be a complete whole system, or it can be a small mobile or tablet. So depending on application requirement, this kind of architecture is applicable. If you don't need like cloud decision, you can have a edge computing where you will get the instant result of your AI system. So edge computing is completely a new into the market. It is replacing right now the cloud platform. So what are the challenges? I mean, what are the various difference between the cloud and edge computing? So cloud computing is like 4.5 billion bandwidth is consumed per second. If you have like a higher camera system or any kind of live streaming data is used in the system, so there will be a higher bandwidth requirement for processing those data. But if I have a edge computing, I have a very less requirement for computing those data, because everything is happening offline. So there is a requirement of edge computing just because of higher resources requirement into the cloud computing. So edge computing is something which is processing your sensors data offline, but it will be taking the same decision that your cloud system is taking the decision for AI system. Okay, now this is core part that we want to discuss. This is a sensor designed by ST Microelectronics, which has a machine learning core. Means whatever we discussed, like collecting data from sensors, sending data onto the cloud, and then after building the AI solution, ST Microelectronics has recently introduced a sensor which is already pre-built with certain kind of machine learning algorithm and artificial intelligence. So how this is changing the field, changing the industry? As of now, we discussed we have to throw data of the sensor onto the cloud, then the decision will be taken onto the cloud, and then system will be deployed into the field. But this whole chipset is using a machine learning core, where you have a sensor and machine learning inbuilt into the single chip. So single chip can take various decisions, whether it is a playing activity, whether it is a hand wash activity, whether it is a moving activity, whether it is a fitness activity. So this whole solution is completely integrated in a single chip. So this is a completely new advancement into the sensor technology, where your sensor has a machine learning internally into the single chip. So how it is completely different from normal sensors? So here we have sensors. So this is a machine learning core of the sensor that we discussed. So all these blocks are internally inside the single IC. We have sensor data, which has accelerometer, gyroscope, and other sensors. There is a computational block inside the chip, which is filtering the data and digital predefined features. So there is a feature extraction block inside this computational block. And after that, we have a decision tree. Decision tree will decide whether it is a moving object or whether it is a fitness activity, whether it is a hand wash activity. So based on the sensors data, there is a decision tree built inside the single chipset, which is clearly classifying various human activity. So here what we discussed, this is a conclusion where single chip can perform multiple machine learning decision. So the chipset that we discussed can decide internally. As of now, if we want to decide the motion activity, so we have to send data onto the cloud, and we have to train the model for motion activity. Then after training the model, we have to build the artificial intelligence, and then we have to deploy something into our microcontroller. But the same thing is built by if I have something vibration happening in my system, so my system can take just give me direct output. There is a vibration happening into the motor. If I have a head motion recognition, so this sensor can directly give me there is a head motion movement into particular product. So it has so many challenges for building the AI system for embedded engineer. Generally, embedded engineers are known to the sensor and microcontroller technology, but they are not known about processing and doing machine learning on the cloud. So this chipset can easily solve our problem. We can directly interface this chipset into our microcontroller. It will be able to give you all this activity whenever it is happening. So there is a huge innovation happening into the sensor and AI technology, where now AI is completely pre-built into your sensors. So this way, we can conclude now our sensors are becoming very smart and intelligent, and this will be solving a big problem for our industry. So here, whatever we have discussed regarding the sensors, IoT and ML and AI, we can take a few sessions on the question and answer. Based on that, we will be taking more discussion on that. Hello.
Yeah. So, Ardiji, the presentation is over now?
Yes. Yeah, we can take question and answer session, sir.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so participant, this session is open for questions now. So you can also unmute yourself if you want, or otherwise you can write to this chat box. Yes, I hope there are some computer scientists as well in the computer engineers, and this talk will be more relevant for them. So yeah, so I again repeat, you can unmute yourself and you can talk. So, Hardik, I have the question. This one, Google talks about this Google Assistants, and they are saying that they are further building it. So, like you asked some question in future, it may be like if I ask the question to Google Assistant, I need a room in Bangalore, and I need for 10 hours, starting from 8 o'clock or something like that. So then it will communicate with the hotel and book book the room for me. It will find the cheapest room if I tell some data. So how does it work?
Yeah. So basically, sir, let me just give you introduction about that kind of technology, where the sensor is voice capturing sensor. So it is capturing your data of voice, and based on the voice data, there is some predefined rules available onto the cloud. So like first it will be asking for the, like in Alexa or Google Home, you have to like Alexa. So the Alexa is the keyword which they, which is using the machine learning concept. So without Alexa you won't be able to get the answer. So Alexa is a wake word. So wake word, if you want to build a wake word in your hardware, then you have to train with the various voice tones, with the various speech tones into your hardware. So that was like doing various collect various voice sample, then analyzing that voice sample, then based on the voice sample you have to segregate what kind of word is there. If I want to say Alexa, so there will be a more number of sample onto the cloud which will be identical to the Alexa word, and then it will be a decision will be taken whether there is a probability of the sample like 99% 9 or more than less than that. If my probability of matching the data is 99.9, then I will be able to take to the next stage. And definitely you said like if I want to book a hotel, so definitely Google is analyzing your voice data onto the cloud, and based on your voice complete data decoding, it is giving you some response on your system. So this is completely a voice based system where your voice is decoded onto the cloud platform via Google, and is giving you a feedback from that decision building block.
So it will be like that. If I am using the Google Assistant or some other advanced, so this is not advanced now. In future, Google Assistant maybe means like that. So the other person will also, the receptionist will also use AI based some answer. If somebody is asking from AI machine, then machine will also answer, right? The hotel will also use
Yes,
the same
definitely, sir.
Okay. So this will be totally machine to machine communication, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So this.
Even we have a smart communication system similar to the Alexa. That is similar way doing the activity. It is a wearable voice control device where you, if you want to learn a pizza making process, then you have to just ask what is a pizza making process. It is sending audio on the cloud, and it is delivering step by step instruction to your speaker.
Okay, so the first question I see that is from Sitaram Mahato. Maybe he's the student. I'm not sure because I cannot. There are faculty members, some administrators, and then students as well. Some of them. Student number is less, but there are some students. So this is question is from Sitaram Mahato. Hardik sir, what is the process of hiring in your company?
Okay, so basically we need people who can have a good command on the embedded system, and must have a good strength on the programming side. Otherwise it's a personal interest. If someone is really interested in embedded system, and if they are able to perform very in terms of like doing the new technically challenging environment, then definitely they can be hired.
Oh, hello, sir. Hardik, sir. This is Sitaram Mahato from Jharkhand. Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Hello,
yes.
Hardik, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm asking what are the minimum qualifications required for your company as a junior engineer for senior engineer, and for what are the experience required, and
Okay.
your company is visiting for any other colleges for placement or not? Is this, sir?
Yeah, definitely. We have a requirement like be in electronics, but after that it depends on the skill set. The minimum requirement is be electronics or be electronics and communication or anything, but the main depends on the embedded skill requirement. If they are enough capable to understand the microcontroller and the cloud platform and wireless technology, then it will be easy for those students to have a interview very well.
Okay, is there any scope for industrial automation or not? Just like PLC, HMI, SCADA, is there any scope for in your company or not?
No, we are not into conventional industrial automation, but we are into the IoT Industry 4.0. So Industry 4.0 has a wireless connectivity onto the cloud, and similar to the AI and machine learning related platform.
Okay, sir. Actually, I am asking. I have asked this question for you only for actually just 2 months ago. I have started a company, just like registered a company, just Glossy India. That's why I have asked for. That's why I have discussed with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. That's why.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, Sitaram Mahato, this is good experience then for you. I hope you will also have a good company soon. Okay, so yeah, I want to add to this this answer a little bit. Like I was reading a news, like Google, IBM, and then Apple. These all companies are doing away with the college degrees. So what Hardik is saying that this skill or degree you are asking, I think for him also his company, the skill is more important. Whatever is highlighted. So these companies are now preferring that you should have the desired skill set. So whatever immediately they can use. So the companies are not interested to invest you to hire and then anybody and teach again. So that may be the reason. So let's move to the other question. So which one was the? This is from Venkat Ratnam. Which one was preferable program for getting sensor output after designing of machine? Hardik, do you get this question? I am not understanding.
Yeah, I am not also getting that exactly. It is like preferable program for getting sensor output after designing of machine. So it might be something depending on. Let me just give you an overview. We are not clear about the question. So if you have any kind of sensor, so sensor can be in a technically analog or digital. Then you have to process those data using microcontroller or any other programmable device, and then after you can process those data on the cloud or on or edge computing. So edge computing is completely different than cloud. You can process your data offline, and you can train your system offline, and then you can deploy the AI solution.
Yeah, so Venkat Ratnam, maybe if you can rewrite the question. So it will be more.
Ashok sir, I have another question. This is Sitaram Mehta from Jharkhand. Sir, Hardik sir, can you share your contact number and email ID if possible?
Yeah, definitely. Ashok, I can share to Ashok sir, and Ashok sir will be distributing to you people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So, yeah. So let's move to the other questions. This question is from Venkatesh. Does the AI and data protection go together? This is first part. And then second part, what's the difference between statistical AI and classical AI?
Okay. So AI and data protection is something like collecting data, and AI is something like collecting data and using those data for particular training or doing some artificial intelligence. The data protection is completely a different terminology, where you have to protect your data from the theft or any other kind of activity. Like if you have collect, because there the data has the equal value like oil right now. So there will be a next world war because of the data. So everybody is behind data. You can see from the actual market analysis, everybody is behind data. So whoever is getting the data, they have to protect those data. So definitely AI has a little bit dependency on data protection, because if the data is not secure, then your next solution will not be secure, and everyone can copy your solution. So definitely data protection is must for building the AI solution.
Yeah, thank you, Hardik. And then again, I'm moving to the next question. Again, this is from Venkatesh. This is like your idea. What do you think? I want to know your perception about this. How AI is going to change the way we work?
So basically, I also discussed AI. See, difference between AI and human is we human can perform so many tasks, and we are enough trained to perform multiple tasks. Like as of now, I am doing a Google Meet. After half an hour, I will be doing some other activity in my office. In a evening, I will be doing some different activity. So humans are completely trained for multiple jobs, but in an AI system, they are particularly as of now trained for a single task, or because they will, AI system will be expert in particular trained model, means trained data. So if you have a AI system, so it can either play chess or it can do some kind of soldering work or anything. But human has a more knowledge than AI. Human has more experience than AI, which human can perform so many tasks with the single brain. But in a AI, you need very higher resources and very higher computing power to build a competitive human AI system. So definitely AI is going to change the way we work. AI will replace all labor intensive work where specific task is required to perform. At that place, AI will be replaced. So uh, in, if you go into the China, then there are huge factories are running with the similar kind of job, like packaging or any kind of like manual job. So they are doing only single task from morning to evening. So such kind of activities will be replaced by AI. So that is way how we will be get benefited using the AI system. So all the labor intensive work will be covered by AI systems.
Okay, thank you, Hardik ji. And now I'm moving to the other question, which is from Dr. P.V. Rajeshwari. And kindly shed some light on how to go for real-time air water quality monitoring in sending or getting data in mobile.
Okay. So initially, if you want to monitor water or air quality, so you have to define sensors for quality of water and air, because both have a different sensor. Air sensors are different, water sensors are different. So in a water, you can have pH, TDS, and flow sensors. In air, you have PM 1.0, PM 2.5, PM 10 sensors, which can give you dust particle value. Then in air, you can have oxygen, carbon dioxide sensors. So first you identify what kind of sensors you will be using. Once the sensors are available, you have to process those data using any embedded computing system, or it's a microcontroller or anything. Then you send those data onto the cloud. Then it will be available to your mobile from the cloud. So this is whole system component if you want to build a monitoring system.
Yeah, I think Dr. P.V. Rajeshwari, you got the answer for your question. So let's move to the next question. So this is from Student Dean Affairs. The name is not coming on the screen. So, so I am reading this, and this question, Adhik, I can tell a little bit. This question, this faculty member is asking for many sessions. So I'm reading this. We are doing rice grading project. So they want to know the quality of the rice. Can you please tell us suitable sensor for this? Data set is available for grading. Where we can get it, sir? Is data available somewhere? Means data also they want. So quality, what is to be known? So that data is also required. Where we can get the data, so they can know the quality.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So basically, there are definitely specific sensor requirement in such kind of application. But I would suggest a camera system will be good enough to identify initial level quality of the rice grading, because there are no specific different, if it is a size or if it is a like a quality check. So in terms of like camera, you can have a multiple good rice and bad rice differentiation. After that, you can have a camera system which will be doing the real time quality analysis of the rice. So this is very basic system. Depending on quality check requirement, you can have more sensor, but initially you can start with the camera system.
Yeah, so thank you, Hardik. We are moving to the other question. This is from Manisha Gaur. Will edge computing require any changes to the operating model?
No, specifically, definitely everything running on the cloud is supported by edge computing. If you want to run a TensorFlow in edge computing, then definitely TensorFlow is supported in edge computing. If you want to build any other processing unit into your edge computing system, then all have support for edge computing system. So whatever is running on the cloud, that has capability in the edge computing system. The only difference is cloud is very scalable solution where you can now initially you have 100 data sets. If in later cases if you have more than billion data sets, so your edge computing might not be suitable. In that case you have to go with the cloud computing, but edge computing has all the capability that is available into the cloud computing.
Okay, so thank you, Hardik, again. I am just moving to the other question now from Venkatesh N. This question is, in what ways is IoT energy efficient?
Okay, so basically IoT is completely designed for sensors. In a sensors you have to have a low power sensors. So although you are selecting a low power sensor, there might be a chances of high consumption in your IoT system because of the transmission protocol that you have used. Many people are not aware about the various IoT protocols that are very low power in terms of like sending very less data onto the cloud, like considering the MQTT and HTTP protocol. So MQTT is specially designed for IoT system where you have to send minimum data packets onto the cloud, where if you are using the same data using the HTTP protocol, so definitely higher number of bytes will be required to send the same sensor data onto the cloud. So as you have more number of bytes in your packet, your power consumption will increase. Similar way, there is another architecture which is completely power dependent, which way you want to use. If you are using GSM technology for transmitting data, so definitely it will consume more power compared to Wi-Fi. And there are more, NB-IoT is less power consuming than GSM. So all this depends on what kind of architecture you are selecting for IoT system, and that way you can make IoT more energy efficient.
Okay, Hardik, right now we don't have more questions. I will ask my question, maybe participant will then write the more question. So this you completed your BTech in 11 and then immediately maybe after a few months you started this company, and then you are not having much time in this the gap, maybe the processing time this in between for documentation, etc. Maybe immediately you started. So what kind of difficulties are there? Means why not many person are preferring entrepreneurship in India, and what kind of difficulty you faced and means for this reaching to there, and immediately how you took the decision that you should not go, like yesterday talk we were talking about even a second grader once goes abroad, he becomes very smart, and the toppers in it, they remain in India and they do not become useful. So so means these are various factors. So what deters anyone or everyone to remain in India and start a business, or what, why this is so difficult? Because we have a skill. These Indians, when they reach to the Silicon Valley and they are doing, or they are outperforming than anyone else in the world. I mean, not in India, other and India also, I should not say there are many, but not many, very few who are at the top. But once they go US or anywhere else, majority of them they are succeeding. So what restrict them, or what made you to take the decision? So you can please share your experience and something else, this insights.
Yeah. So basically, sir, we Indians are very smart and we are very clever than any other countries people. We have experience because we have multinational clients with whom we are working, and based on those experience, we can say Indians are very hardworking, very smart, and very clear. But it's a matter of atmosphere. So basically, in my college, we got atmosphere where we learn the leadership. where we got much exposure on building our skills, doing some more innovation into the technical fields, and all those help us lot during our startup. Generally, people have a mindset a startup is a very fascinating term, but it's not a fascinating term. It's a really challenging. Sometimes after doing startups, you might start feeling it's a job is better than doing the startup, but definitely it's a one more thing is the passion. If you have a passion for doing something really challenging work, then no one can stop you. We got so many hurdles in our journey also. Our biggest competitor is China. From the first day we started competing with the China, because whatever solution we are building, everything is available into the China. So our customer are always asking for the price reduction and time delivery and everything with the comparison to the Chinese vendor. But initially it was very tough. Then after, as we experience so many development into our pipeline, then we realize how we can solve all this problem in within India. Because see, we are into electronics designing development. There are so many vendor dependency. If I have to find a very good electronics manufacturer who can shoulder a BGA package very properly, then it was a very tough time in India in 2012. But now it is a very open market. Means I can find a very good supplier in India who can shoulder a BGA package on PCB. So initially when we started, there were many technical challenges where we have to compete with the China without any kind of resource support in India. But we definitely knew that in a later cases, the system will be there in our India, where people will start doing so much activity in house, and that based on that we will be able to gain our advantage also. So the biggest challenge was resource management in India, because in India it was a culture, let's get from China and sell into India. It's like a trading activity in India. But now there are so many manufacturers who have started their activity for manufacturing in India, and that is giving advantage to us also. So definitely in any startup there is a dependency. If it is a hardware startup, software startup, or any other startup, they have dependency on vendors and infrastructure and resources. If all are in a line, then there are only execution level challenges. But if it is resources are not available, then definitely there are challenges. If you go into, like you said, many people are just going outside in of India and they are performing very well. The reason is only that they are not no one is stopping them for using the resources. No one is stopping them for, there are no legal particular like bonding, or there are no major responsibility on them. They just have to focus on the solution. But in India we have, if we are starting our own startup, then we have family responsibility, we have to feed our families. But in foreign in abroad, you have less dependency on, because everybody is independent in your family, and you have your own choice where you can have your own startup or whatever you want to do. But in India still we have like a family culture where we have responsibility and everything, and that is also stopping many startups for moving or taking the risk.
Yeah, thank you, Hardik, very well explained. And this, we had the, again I have one more question. We were having the session on stress management and yoga in the same program.
Okay.
Yeah, so this person, yeah, he was talking about the, you are the person of the average of the 5% who are more close to. Yeah. So
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so I want to know who are the 5% for you. So that will shine some light on the starting the startup or kind of this one. So we want to know that one. If you can share then.
Yeah, so basically it's like, sir, there are many people who are internally driven. So basically we compete our own self, and we also compete with the people around surrounding us. So we always wanted like we have like a mindset where we should compete with ourselves with the quality that is available with the other leaders. So basically we have few role models who are already, means like Jack Ma in China. who is a big role model, and in India there are many other people who are like a role model, who are leader, who are good leaders. So whether it is a business or whether it is a sports, we should give our best. So that is the only motivation for us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, participant, if you have any other question, then you can ask. If we can wait for a few seconds, 30 seconds say. If you don't have the question, then we will close the session. So we are waiting for 30 seconds.